Hello, everybody. This is Brian for Breaking Down Security. Before we get started, we recorded this on November the 11th, which in the U.S. is Veterans Day. The Brakesec team here would like to extend our utmost respect to all veterans, past, present, alive, and not alive. And we'd like to thank you all for your sacrifice. And myself as a veteran, I fully understand the sacrifices that we have when we go and deploy for long periods of time away from our families, or for some of us who've had the ultimate sacrifice. My grandfather fought in the Korean War. He was a member of the Chosen Few, fought in the Chosen Reservoir, some fairly horrific conditions, and I know all too well that we don't always end up with nice, cushy military jobs like myself, and that some of us are under constant threat of danger in our jobs, or have gone through all kinds of hell. And your sacrifice is the most worthy of our respect. So thank you again to all the veterans, U.S. and non-U.S. alike. If you're in the Signal Corps in the UK, or British Marines or something, of that nature, or anybody who's out there trying to help protect freedom in the armed forces. It's not an easy job, and we thank you for doing so. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It's Brian, Miss Berlin, Mr. Betcher for Breaking Down Security.
Hello.
Hello.
How's everybody doing this week?
Good. Cold.
It's cold. Wait, you were telling us before it's now snowing there?
Yeah, we have like 3 inches here. About an hour north, they have 10 already.
Didn't somebody tell the world that winter is coming? It's not here yet. It's got another month.
Nope.
Wow. Okay. This is the first snow y'all got. You got some back in...
It is. No, this is the first one we've gotten.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'm thinking of
some. At least me.
Oh, okay. All right. It's
for some people, it snowed on Halloween.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Not us, though.
Okay. Yeah. Thankfully, it's been the mid 50s here, which is anywhere between about 13 to 15 C for us. So that was nice. Mr. Betcher, you've got snow?
Oh, once a decade.
Once a decade?
It snowed there last year, right?
Did it? I don't recall.
I moved up here where it's closer to the snow. It kind of sucks, but yeah, we had 2 feet of snow, which is what, about a meter of snow last year in February, and that was not fun. So it's fun when you're playing in it, but I've become my parents, so it's fun until you got to actually get out and go do something and go to work, and then you have.
It's fun to look at from the inside when you're nice and warm and cozy.
Right. Yeah, you got your hot cocoa and everything set up there. So.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, Mr. Betcher, anything you've seen this week in regards to malware? We got some stories about malware this week as well, but have you seen anything in particular yourself?
Yeah, but I can't remember the file extension of this malware. We'll probably talk about it on the next episode of BDIR.
Oh, yeah?
And we did find another Windows event that can detect this malware, so we've added it to LogMD. So it'd be pretty cool to talk about, something to do with a mapped drive.
Oh, so, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Very cool. So I want to start with number 3. The one I since we've had Miss InfoSec Sherpa on, Tracy on the show, I subscribe to her mailing list, her Nuzzle, which has specific stories from Asia and the Middle East and Africa. And one of the stories that came up was a malware story that, let me see where I find it again. All right. I'm scrolling. Pyrogenic. It's a jar-based malware spreading across Africa and the Middle East. And this came out on the 3rd of November to current. And they said the NIJA Force team detected a new wave of malware spreading across Africa and the Middle East. It comes in the form of a spam campaign targeting corporate mailboxes. There's some definite threat indicators in here. They're saying it comes in an attachment. Appears it's a PDF email remittance. There's a link to a various site, and it redirects to a number of places, including a jar file where it gets downloaded to the PC. Mr. Betcher, you've had some experience with attachment-based malware, don't you?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a huge vector today. It's one of the main ones. There's the attachment-based and there's the link-based.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, this was a link.
No, this is it was a.
Yes, it was an attachment. It was disguised as a PDF.
Yeah.
Right. So
_pdf.jar.
Oh.
Correct.
Yep.
And most people don't set. Whenever I get a new Windows system, I always go into the Windows Explorer and hit options, view options.
Yeah.
And then I do hide extensions for known file types.
Right.
You uncheck that.
Yeah.
So you
One of the first things I do on a Windows box.
Yeah, me too.
Everybody should do that. So, because then you know what you're actually dealing with, and you're not getting fooled in that way.
Right.
I always need to know what file type I'm clicking on. Right.
Another thing you can set in group policy.
Well, so this one is.
That's right.
It's not as smart as it could be. It says that it does rely on the victim to open the jar file, but they're assuming it's a PDF. It says upon launching the malicious file, they noticed an outbound connection to a CNC server at 157.245.160.150 on port 80. Obviously, port 80 makes the most sense because nobody's going to block outbound port 80.
Is it only connecting to one IP address?
What? It's only connecting to one IP address, and then they said shortly after 2 DLL files get dropped and loaded. So I'm assuming it's some kind of, it makes an outbound connection to the CNC server, pulls down 2 files, and puts them into app data local temp. So
that's a very lame attempt, right? Like usually they do, like the dynamic link stuff as opposed to just 2 IP addresses that can those are going to get blocked or taken down super quick.
That would be our hope that they do get taken down. They're not using PowerShell though. They're using command.exe. So
no, PowerShell isn't up there.
There it is. And PowerShell bypass execution policy, no exit, no profile. Okay. So they're
I think what it does is it executes the Java file.
Right.
The jar, and then it downloads that DLL, then uses command.exe to run PowerShell to execute another jar file.
Yep.
Which it downloads somehow. The article isn't clear about what exactly it does. It doesn't have enough detail in there, although it does have a bunch of artifacts that you could look for.
Right. Yeah.
One thing you need here is to have the JVM running on the victim system, which I haven't had a need to run Java except when I'm testing malware.
Yeah, or if you're a pen tester and you need burp, then you need Java installed, or using web interception proxies. It's the only reason
there's a lot of shitty software out there that I think requires Java but for the most part. I think it's kind of going away.
Yeah.
It does for mostly it's the enterprise, like the servers. They have Java applications running. I haven't had the need to use Java in quite a while in any of the companies I've worked with. Usually on endpoints, they don't have the JVM running, but it depends. So I think a good remediation for this is to block all jar attachments in your email gateway.
Yeah.
And also only install Java on endpoints if there's a business need. I mean, if you don't need it, don't install it, right? Don't let your employees install it unless they have a business need to install it. And then I know there's a lot of games that use Java, right? Online
you should
games.
be playing them at work.
Yeah. So, and then if you
Wow.
have enough resources in the company, or you have access to a sandbox on your email gateway, then utilize that. I know there's a lot of companies out there that have it, and they're just not using it.
Yeah.
Or it's available in the package that they buy from whatever large company like Cisco, and they're not utilizing it. So they really should turn that on.
I can't get it. I saw a black flash across in front of Miss Berlin's camera.
This is my new kitten.
Oh.
He is a pain in the ass.
I know. My cats do the same thing. It's awesome.
I forgot to shut my door.
Oh my god.
He got on our
He's
counter
a pain with his ass too.
Yeah, he got on the because I saved bacon grease, right?
Yeah.
And he got on my kitchen counter and ate the entire cup of bacon grease the other day.
His coat's gonna look nice and shiny. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. It just reminds me of every time I've been in a meeting, I'll be in a customer meeting, all of a sudden here comes a white flash and a chocolate starfish. I'm like, no, get down.
Stop it.
Yeah, stupid cat. Yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry. Back to our malware story. Only one company on VirusTotal actually caught this thing, so it's actually still fairly effective. I mean, depending on what endpoint you're using, you could be shut out of luck. Fortinet, they say, is the only one that actually saw it as an exploit. I'm hoping that since the 3rd of November that's been upped a bit, but I liked this site. There was definitely threat intel here. There was definitely some indicators of compromise, like anything with remittance, with underscore PDF.jar. It has file hashes and for the SQLite database DLL that got added. I'm assuming the SQLite database DLL is so that when you do program files or something, when that DLL's been allowed to inject, then it looks somewhat legit. So, the DNS IP or the IPs for the DNS requests are there as well, and so they're talking about mitigation. So avoid and restrict execution of unknown files or PowerShell scripts. Emails, attachments, and links are sandboxed before delivery. Monitor emails for any phishing activity. Monitor the network for suspicious or anomalous activity. Some of this stuff is, communication to CNC servers should be blocked. I guess that's a good way to stop it altogether. It wasn't running malware. It was. I mean, it's. I'm not sure exactly what the end. The end game is for this. Usually these kinds of things they put Bitcoin miners or something on your system.
Right.
Maybe this is just to create kind of a persistence that they can use later on. So they didn't exactly have any kind of write up about what it's used for once it's installed. So did I miss that somewhere?
I
don't think so.
Okay.
They just talk about that this is a Trojan, but not any what do you call it? Who's behind it and what they're after?
Right. It was a decent enough story. I happened to find it in there, and hopefully they'll have some follow up discussion about that as well. So it's naijasecforce.com. So there you go. That's their website, their company. They're based out of Nigeria, I guess. So there are white hat hackers in Nigeria. So that's good. It's good to see.
Oh, yeah.
I bet they're really on the front lines of that stuff. So good on them. All right. Next story. Ms. Berlin, you wanted to talk about some of the Axios stuff, right? Because it's medical stuff.
Yeah. So, two of them are kind of the same, right? So one's titled Why Hospitals Are a Weak Spot in U.S. Cybersecurity, which... Duh. And the other one, where'd it go? What your hospital knows about you.
Right.
So why are they weak spots? Why them and not, say, banks?
Well, HIPAA, for example, isn't a very great security standard to just go by. And a lot of them, I think, try and do that for security.
So they do the bare minimum of
Yeah, pretty
kind
much
of the bare minimum.
Bare minimum, and it's a 24/7 business. They don't want to upgrade things because it could impact somebody's actual health, or there's a lot that goes into it when it's healthcare stuff. It used to be where like a piece of software would be approved. I think this got changed, I don't know, 6-7 years ago, but a piece of software would only be approved for the certain OS and patch level through the FDA.
Mm-hmm.
So they weren't even allowed to upgrade things, right, and patch them, because the FDA approval process takes 5 years or whatever.
Yeah. Well, of course, if I remember correctly, the FDA was always quick to say, "Well, no, you don't really have to do that for every change you do to your system." A lot of hospitals were using that as
an excuse.
Yeah, as an excuse to not do that, because
Mm-hmm.
they read the fine print.
Oh yeah.
Some devices are, in the case of, say, an MRI machine, to some hospitals is a 30-year investment.
Oh yeah.
Right. So they can't just go buy a new one.
Mm-mm.
And they're being manipulated by device manufacturers. Here in the article, it says they're told to go buy total replacements when they may only need a software upgrade.
Right. Or just a new PC.
So
they have all this really expensive, specialized equipment, but it's only plugged in with probably a serial cable to a Windows box. And maybe that's the only thing that needs upgraded, but they're forced to buy the whole package. And also maybe whoever they bought that from 10 years ago is now out of business. Because I've seen a lot of that where it's been like, oh yeah, we don't have the money for new software or hardware, and you can't fix it. You can't change this because we no longer have support because the company's gone.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I think some simple, network segmentation or something would be helpful in that respect. The problem is you have the same problem that, the nuclear power plants have. It's like everybody wants everything to be connected and on the internet because they want to be able to do all the cool shit with,
now with
30-year-old software.
Like meaningful use and HIPAA and all that stuff. Everybody has these online portals where you can see all of your information.
Yep.
And that started, I don't know, gosh, I can't even remember. Time goes so fast, 6-7 years ago, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
It was meaningful use too.
Yep.
Where, the doctors start getting penalized for not having certain things in place. That's why, when you go to the doctor now, they'll ask you, do you smoke? Whereas before they never used to.
Yeah.
They ask you for your email address? There's a lot of things that are included in there that they have to ask for now. Otherwise they get penalized.
But you don't have to answer, right?
No, you don't have to answer. They have to ask. Would you go away? Jesus.
So, in the second article, what your hospital knows about you, it says everything else you, your family, your friends divulge to doctors also gets recorded.
Sure.
Yeah, and
that could include drinking habits. Yeah.
Yeah.
Admitting responsibility in a car accident, marital problems, or even sending a Christmas card.
Sending a Christmas card? Seriously?
Even sending a Christmas card.
I mean, depends on if they think it's relative enough to put it in your chart. I don't know what they mean about sending a Christmas card.
I mean, sure, I could understand the marital problems perhaps could go to, mental health or status, drinking habits as well. Yeah, especially... Yeah, I'm not sure whatever you tell them is fair game, even though it seems obtuse. If you wrote something deeply personal in that Christmas card, it could be open to public exposure. Wow. Okay.
Who sends their doctors Christmas cards with deeply personal information?
If
you're doing it, stop. First off.
I'm very close to my proctologist, so.
I mean, most people are.
As we get older,
Brian, if you wrote your doctor to thank him for his advice on your ovarian cancer or whatever, that might be recorded. And then,
right.
If you go to get insurance somewhere, they would say, hey, Brian, you've got a pre-existing condition. We can't cover you. You have ovarian cancer, and I'm sorry.
Well, that would make me very special if I ended up having ovarian cancer.
That's right.
So,
yeah.
But, are they going to check it? It says right here in the article, they're not going to delete anything, even if it's wrong.
Yeah. Well,
they can't. Like, in EMR, they don't let you delete things. You can modify and add notes, but for the most part, you just can't delete anything.
Yeah, I moved to San Diego, I moved to Austin, I moved up here. Every place I've had a doctor, and every one of them probably still has my medical records or medical information from that time.
Oh yeah.
They're not. I think there's some HIPAA requirements about retention as well. So I know it's. They can get rid of it.
They have some really high retention.
Yeah, and it doesn't make a lot of sense, but
that's why Iron Mountain's a thing, because they have to send all those records off and be stored somewhere.
Right.
That's why I like my the doctor that cracks your back.
Oh, chiropractor.
Yeah, because he's all paper records.
Well, okay, so here's the thing. So we have breaches of medical health record systems. Would it not be better if we were to carry around our own copy of our own medical records, or make it so that the medical records can't be accessed unless we authorize it? I mean, I was thinking last night of, I don't know, maybe somebody out there is yelling at me and going, yes, we already do that. And please, feel free to leave us feedback. But I was thinking, you go to the hospital, you go to the doctor. Hi, I'm here to see, Dr. Butts, the proctologist, and whatever. And they're like, well, okay, we need you to unlock your record for us. And you just, hold your phone up there, or I send it a text message and it goes bloop. Okay, thank you, Mr. Brake. Now we have your records for the next 12 hours or what have you. And, as they, they're doing stuff at the hospital visit, then they, after 12 hours, they no longer have access to the data or whatever. They can't copy it. They can't make duplicates. It's just one copy that's immutable, and they can make addendums or they can append to the record, but they can't delete or remove that record. And it's, secured by some method other than a password, like a second factor or something like that. I don't know if that's even possible, but it seems like there should be a way for us to control our own medical records instead of the healthcare system doing that. So even if the hospital got breached, all the bad guys would get is a bunch of encrypted records that don't make any sense because, they don't have my mobile device. I know it's possible.
I feel like they should all be encrypted without having them access it, unless it's two-factor auth anyways, but right. We know how well that works. Right.
And I mean, if worst comes to worst, you could have somebody send an SMS text message to the system, you're at the doctor's office. You don't have a smartphone because, you're, of an advanced youth and you don't have a smartphone. So you send a text message with a number to whatever, and it unlocks them for it. Us more technologically advanced folks maybe use a YubiKey or something like that to unlock it. I mean, the obvious thing
is not going to happen. It's not going to happen because the patients are going to complain so much that they don't get their drugs fast enough. They don't get treated fast enough. They forgot their phone. There's too many.
Who forgets their phone?
There's too many flaws, man.
Well, so let's say you have a mixed environment, something encrypted, something not encrypted. I want my record encrypted, so I'm going to go through the whole rigmarole. Joe, Bob, Billy in God knows where, podunk nowhere. I don't care about my records. I'm going to just allow them to use it.
But at that point, isn't it just easier to do it for everything? As opposed to having two systems where one's encrypted and one's not?
It would be easier, but you either have it all encrypted or you have it all don't, and then Joe, Bob, Billy can't get to his records,
Oh, okay.
But yeah. So don't worry though. It's all better Google is here to save the day. Project Nightmare. I'm sorry, not Nightmare. Nightingale.
Yeah, no, it is Project Nightmare.
Project Nightmare.
My bad. They apparently
I like that 3 of these are about hospitals.
Yeah, well, I just happened to run through my Feedly today, and this is what popped down as of 4 hours ago. So, Project Nightingale allegedly collected tens of millions of health records without patient consent. This is from Zach Laidlaw on AndroidPolice.com. And I don't know if this is going hand in hand with Google's acquisition of Fitbit. They paid $2.1 million for a fitness platform.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. So Project Nightingale, named presumably after Florence Nightingale, they partnered with the second largest healthcare organization, Extension, and they are ramping up efforts to gather various types of confidential patient documentation, including names, date of birth, lab results, doctors' diagnoses, hospitalization records, and other bits of data that could be used to complete health portfolios. Now, considering all the information Google already has, and then tying all of that to health records, it seems like a recipe for disaster. I don't know. They said although 150 Google employees are said to have access to information, which is 150 too many, in my opinion.
But so when you sign the things at your doctor's office saying that people can have access to your medical records, they never include what companies are getting it.
No, they just say third parties,
they
usually,
don't have to.
Right.
And a lot of times they don't know what third party is getting access to their stuff, and I'm sure that's what this case is. Yeah,
and even though they anonymize it, I think Google has enough power to figure out who's who. So, yeah, I mean, it's not because
at first I'm like, oh, maybe Google just started gathering it and didn't know, right? Like they partnered with somebody that didn't tell them that they had all of this medical information, and then they just started ingesting it. Yeah. But I mean, then they bought Fitbit, so I'm gonna think they probably did it on purpose.
Yeah, apparently there's a Forbes article attached to this, which I didn't read that one yet.
Because Forbes sucks, and you have to buy the.
Oh, I'm sure it's behind a paywall. Yeah, I'm sure it's behind a paywall. Let me go see. Google secretly tests medical records health search tool on nation's largest nonprofit health system, documents show. Okay, so it's not behind a paywall. Jillian D'Onofrio and Leah Rosenbaum did the discussion or did the story on Forbes' website. So I'll post that link instead of the one to Android, please. Testing a service uses search and AI technology to analyze patient records for Ascension. Okay, so Ascension asked Google to create this search engine. They called it Nightingale. They believe that their push into health analysis is further along than previously believed, even as the company faced a backlash over privacy concerns. So Ascension owns the data, and presumably Google is inside helping to... I'm assuming this is for trends or anything. It's 58% of Ascension users or patients or customers smoke, and 45% of them are more likely to use marijuana or have opioid addiction or what have you.
Right.
So yeah, there's a patient search portal is what they're looking at here. So, wow, yeah.
Yep.
Good times, people. Good times. See, this is what I'm saying. It's maybe there should be some kind of method by which we do that. I want my stuff encrypted. If Joe Bob Billy doesn't want his, then that's fine. If all of our stuff gets bounced and in the hands of some bad person, then at least my stuff was encrypted and theirs wasn't.
Right.
But I would like the option to be able to make that control or have that control. So, and I'm sure there's somebody out there yelling, "Yes, we already do that. Let us come on." And
I think there's going to be a market for just cash transaction doctors. For example, if you go see a doctor for some back pain,
right,
and maybe it's a temporary thing. Maybe you just, you were teaching your son how to punt a football, and your joint kind of hurt for a couple of weeks. Right. And then, you go to the doctor for that, and it gets put in your permanent health record. And then when you go to buy life insurance, let's say, well, you're not super preferred anymore. You're either preferred or average or whatever because you had this back pain thing. So that's a risk right there that you're going to die early or whatnot. Mm-hmm. And so now you have to pay hundreds of dollars more per year or whatever on your life insurance. Right. So I think I see it as almost a risk every time you go to doctor for a minor thing now, because that information is going to be dispersed all over the world. And all of a sudden, every healthcare provider, doctor, insurance company is going to know that you went to the doctor, last year for some back pain.
Right. Yeah.
And that's going to cost you.
I'm looking forward to seeing when healthcare, this extension company or what have you, start partnering with genetic firms like 23andMe to, enhance medical care by, understanding if you have certain markers in your genetic profiles. And, we're also going to charge you $500 versus $250 because you're at a high risk for something.
How do we know that's not going on right now?
We don't actually. So I know law enforcement's working with genetics firms to help, with cold cases or what have you. If you can run some DNA and it, matches up with a cousin, then, you can.
I mean, that is pretty cool.
Yep.
I knew very cool. I knew when I gave my spit to 23andMe that at some point I was going to be, my information was going to get shared, even though they said at the time they weren't going to do it. So I was already, jaded enough to know that this was coming. So, cool. Well, a lot of medical stuff, a lot more information being collected on you, and being done by one of the poorly secured industries in InfoSec. I mean, they're getting better, depending on who you talk to. But there you go. So, they're
getting better, but the bad guys are getting better quicker, so it's a net loss.
Yeah,
that's true. There's the macro format, the dark reading down at the bottom. That was the one that I was thinking of, the XLM format, the macro format.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was thinking of that one earlier anyway. So Microsoft security setting ironically increases risks for Office for Mac users.
Yeah.
Yeah. This one came down on the 4th, and Carnegie Mellon CERT, Worm Systems running Mac for Office. Office for Mac, fully patched 2016 and 2019 Office versions can be attacked remotely because of a trivially exploitable bug in XLM, which is Excel macro format. So the macro being enabled to run without prompting on a vulnerable system when a user has configured Excel to do exactly the opposite. So it will run even though disable all macros is checked. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is unauthenticated remote attacker with arbitrary code writing. Sweet. Bully.
Right. So the mitigation is enable the, quote, disable all macros with notification security setting.
Right. Ugh.
So if you say disable all macros, wait. If you say disable all macros without notification, that's the little checkbox that'll get you in trouble.
Yep. That sucks. Yeah.
So I think it's a flaw.
Yeah.
Instead of disable without notification, it's enable without notification. So it doesn't even notify you.
Right. It's not even notifying you that it's blocking everything. Right. Plus, I mean, the file type here is what, SYLK, silk formats, silk files, symbolic link files. Okay, so SYLK is a symbolic link file. So like shortcut files. So Excel handles XLM content in symbolic link files, and that runs. So I'm assuming you could block this in email as well. Anything that is an XLM or an SYLK file, block those if they have a proper extension. Let me see. Yeah, since Outflank published using XLMs. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Just, it's getting so the list of files that you should be able to accept is getting shorter than the ones you should deny. So VBA, no VBA files, nothing like that. So, so if you've got people in your office running Mac,
Office.
Office Suite on your Macs. It actually says it's vulnerable in 2011 as Office as well, or 2011 Excel, which is not getting any more security updates. So if you're still running an old ass version of Mac Office, you probably need to hasten the upgrade unless you want to just disable those attachments in your inbox. So.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good times. Anything else we'd like to discuss before we go? Number six. Okay, sir, go ahead.
Okay, so if you haven't noticed, you can use OpenSSH in Windows.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So this allows you to use Windows. It basically comes with Windows instead of downloading PuTTY and using a SSH client. Right. So the problem here is that the author of this article found out how to grab the private keys off the system. So what you can do is, in the article, he goes into how he came about doing this, right? And basically he found that there is some binary data inside the registry, and he was able to use other code from GitHub, Python script, to decode that that binary from the registry and get the private keys.
Right. Yeah, it uses DPAPI, D-P-A-P-I, which is the Data Protection Application Programming Interface. There's a link in the show notes to the Wikipedia, but it's just a cryptographic API available from Windows 2000 and later versions of Windows. What makes this bad, Mr. Betcher? It's in the registry, right? And it's encrypted. What's the problem?
There is no problem.
Okay, but why does it need to be stored in the registry? Can't they just store the key locally like we do on most Linux boxes?
Well, it's actually a little bit more secure than Linux. Linux stores it on the user system under, I guess it's .ssh keys. Right. This one is stored in the registry, and you can't read it in clear text. You have to basically decode it somehow. So I don't really see a problem with it. Okay. I mean, your private key, it's actually more secure because it uses the user account password with this. What did you mention? The DPAPI?
Right.
And it uses that to decode the private key in the registry. So you do have to have that particular user's account.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. You have to have access to that user's account, which you can do with admin.
That's
Same
fair.
thing in Linux. You can switch users to any account on the system from root.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess the ssh-agent.exe is storing those keys in the registry. So you can use a regular file like you do in Linux on, for your private keys. But if you decide to use SSH agent, which automates the process of logging in, it stores those in the registry, I'd assume, for retrieval later on. So.
Yeah, and you know what? I don't even know where PuTTY stores your SSH keys either.
Yeah, I don't know. I think
That's a good question.
I think you have the option of putting it in a flat file, which is not safe, but PuTTY SSH agent.
Yeah, I don't even know.
Yeah.
I never looked.
Yeah, I've never thought about it either. I haven't used PuTTY in forever.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I used it the last time, I had a Windows box for my main box, but that was, I don't know, 6 years ago.
Yeah. Stores keys. Anyway.
Yeah, so they're stored on the system and you need access to that particular user's account.
Yeah, I guess the registry for that user would be protected, right? Even unless you knew what the user's password was. And ideally, you'd want a different password than what is the SSH keys password.
Right.
Let me see. Yeah. It says it holds the private keys in memory. I'm sorry, the pageant version, which is the PuTTY SSH agent, stores your keys in memory, which may or may not be a good thing if you run something like, what am I thinking of? What is it? The Windows tool to rip things out of memory.
Well, there's volatility stuff.
Well, there's specific hacking tool that's escaping me right now, and I know people are yelling at us that it's out there.
Oh, you mean Mimikatz?
Mimikatz, yes, thank you. Yes, all I could think of was something that wasn't that. Yeah. So yeah, depending on how it's storing those keys into memory, you could probably yank the private keys out that way too. So something to think about when you're using PuTTY or Pageant or anything like that. Okay.
But don't get your computer hacked if these SSH private keys are important.
That's right. That's right. All right. I got one more, and then we'll go ahead and call it. We have other shows, discussions as well, but yeah, these are the ones. So it's 2019, almost a new decade. And if you have a Cisco small business router, you may want to get some updates. This came out yesterday. I saw this as I was sitting at home. I cackled out loud and laughed heartily. Apparently, Cisco's still putting hard encoded passwords in their systems, specifically the RV320 and 325 dual gigabit WAN VPN routers. 2 static X509 certificates with corresponding public-private key pairs and 1 static secure shell host key were found in the firmware. So they've
done this so many times.
I know. That's why I said it's another day, another Cisco hard-coded credential. So they said the Etsy shadow file included in the firmware has a hard-coded password hash for the root user. So, yeah. Cisco's also disclosed similar issues affecting the RV 016, 42, 42G, and 82 routers in another informational advisory. So update your stuff to at least 1.5.1.05. And they say for the 320 and 325s, and 4.2.3.10 or later for the other firmware, for the other routers that I didn't mention. They said apart from the 2 security issues discussed, they addressed numerous vulnerabilities affecting third-party or TPS, ironically enough, TPS, components. These vulnerabilities existed in the firmware of the routers. So there's it's 2019 and we still have hard-coded credentials inside of network kit. So, bully. So
it says the developers inadvertently shipped these certificates with the firmware.
Did they inadvertently? Did they?
I mean, it's a mistake. People make mistakes.
Well, okay, it's the first time Cisco's done that, so I'm gonna give them a freebie on this one. But don't do it again, developers.
They were new employees.
And maybe eventually, if they become more developed of a company, they could put in some checks and balances so it doesn't happen again.
Mature companies, don't do shit like this. So maybe Cisco will get mature in the next decade and have protections against that kind of stuff. So
right.
Who is this went out? Okay, this went out. Who is the GOAT right now? And I don't mean greatest of all time, but I mean like who's getting shit at work because they left hard-coded credentials in there? I mean, seriously, does that happen? I'd love to see, hey, Bob was the one who put the git commit in with that hard-coded credential, and I would just love to find out if that's a real thing. It's like, oh, great. Who put out the worst vulnerability this year? Do you have the worst bug?
They get a plaque.
Yeah. See, we have worst bug at our office, but it's finding the worst bug.
So that's different.
Yeah. Cisco needs like an Ig Nobel Prize where it's like, who introduced the worst bug by git commit, like, oh, look, Bob added a RCE bug right here. This is, maybe you don't want to give people awards for that. I don't know. Maybe a little shaming would up their game. I don't know. So
no, we're not supposed to shame our employees.
Aren't we? It's character building, you know? Maybe that's the only way they'll learn not to do shit from now on. I don't know. All right. Well, before we go, one thing, I want to welcome any new listeners who might be listening because of seeing myself. I made a rare public appearance at a conference and spoke, which is even more rarer in itself. There was an organization that asked me to come and speak, Technology Alliance Group up in Whatcom County, which is about 2 hours north of Seattle in Bellingham. So we went to the community college up there. They had a lovely venue. It was amazing. It had an auditorium, and they have like 2 little pods in the back. And I'm emoting with my hands, so you'll have to just use your mind. And you know, they had a track. They had numerous tracks. One was an IT and a cybersecurity track. One was a leadership track where you could go and, you know, if you're a PM or something like that, you could, you know, learn some different methods for, you know, enhancing your project management. There was a development and engineering track, and you know, they were talking about web-based technologies. And you know, I'm watching the opening keynote, which was fantastic. And this lady, I'd love to have her on the show. I don't know if she'll come on. She's a CEO of a company, Strategy Clicks, I think was the name of it. Anyway, so I was trying to find where the other tracks were going to be, and come to find out, when they broke, they changed configuration. It said, well, we'll have to change configuration. I'm like, what does that mean? And then I turn around, and the pods in the back that had like 30 or so chairs, the stadium seating, or like at a theater, spun around and created 2 separate rooms inside the larger room. And I was like, well, that's pretty cool.
What?
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. So, you know, I was asked to speak about networking, and I was also on a panel on how to, you know, create your opportunities in IT and InfoSec for yourself. That went fairly well. Met a lot of new people. It was pretty cool. Miriam, Niles, there was Thomas, and a couple of other folks ended up joining our Slack channel, which was great. It was interesting because then hardly anybody was on Slack. Pretty cat. And you know, nobody's on Slack. They're mostly college kids. You know, they don't do the TikTok stuff. And you know, it was interesting because they had never heard of the podcast. They don't listen to a lot of InfoSec podcasts or IT podcasts. Yet they were super interested in being able to get themselves out there after graduation. And so I hope they got something out of my talk there. If anything, to just, you know, make sure that you're getting out and networking and ensuring that you're doing what's necessary. And I told them about my experience with being laid off, and then trying to go to the Austin ISSA meetup and just throwing my resume out there, trying to, you know, find a job. Hey, I've been unemployed. Here's my resume, you know, and that didn't work. And I was talking about quality networking versus quantity networking. If you throw your resume out there to 50 people who don't know you, you know, it comes off as desperate, and, you know, you may need a job, but you should be networking before you need that job. So that was my whole point. Yep. It's like, you know, you got to get yourself out there. You know, for us introverts, you've got to get outside your comfort zone a little bit. I told him, you know, that even to this day, I still probably could, you know, every time we do CSEC East, I'd be like, oh, I can just cancel. Nobody will care, you know, whatever. You know, there's still days where I don't want to go do CSEC East, but I know that if I don't do that, I won't, you know, I could be, you know, hurting somebody else who needs a job or needs an opportunity. So, and that's how I found my job at Leviathan. I was networking through CSEC East. So, it does work.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I did a couple of resume reviews, impromptu, a couple of folks in looking for internships. A couple of people were like, hey, you know, I'm in college. I'm a junior. I'm thinking about trying to you know, do an internship or to find a job. Could you look at my resume? So I kind of, I pulled a Ms. Bat and, you know, sat aside with them for about 10 minutes and did a I hope a good resume review. One lady was a startup at her, she was a CEO of a startup that she created, and then she's, you know, she sold it, and now she's wanting to find a different job. So I was like, oh, okay. You know, and she was looking to do like cloud security architecture or whatever. And so I was trying to help her, fix her previous job where she was CEO and founder to, something that was a little less, intimidating for people, because you can't, I was the CEO of a 3-man company and I just sold it for, $500,000 or something. And now I work as a security architect somewhere else because, I don't want to, be in the startup world anymore. You're
Right.
not going to get a job as an enterprise security architect or something like that. They're going to expect you to be a C-level somewhere. And, when you're a C-level of 3 people, then it doesn't really make a lot of sense. So I was helping her try to keep all the important stuff in her resume, but not be, here's my company, I was a CEO, that kind of stuff. So that was kind of an interesting deal as well. So if you are an InfoSec person, at TAGNW, that's TAGNW on Twitter, they're going to be holding this again next year, and they definitely could use some speakers. And it was a lovely, diverse group of folks. There are a lot of folks there who are hungry for InfoSec and knowledge. So if you're interested in speaking, they're going to be doing it again this time next year, I think. So keep that in the back of your mind whenever you're thinking about speaking engagements. So and thank them, and I heartily thank them for having me come. I don't know if I did any good, but everyone seemed to.
I'm sure you did.
Everyone seemed to think it was a pretty good discussion. So
there you go.
Because all right. So Ms. Berlin, you're going to be speaking somewhere next week.
This coming Saturday, the 19th.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right? I think it's 19th, 16th, 16th.
16th.
I am going to be giving a training at Secure West Virginia.
Okay. And that's Mr. Gardner, right? Professor Gardner.
Yep, he's one of the people on their board, I think. And it's an 8-hour D&D style attack, defend, detect tabletop. It's like all encompassing stuff. So I'm super excited.
So bring your die 20s then, is what you're saying.
We actually give them to you.
Really?
And they're special ones with unicorns. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's nice.
Oh yeah.
I've got a whole big bag that I still have up in my cabinet there because I haven't had time to find a gaming group yet. I think I might actually do that in the new year. So. Yeah,
the guy that did the voting security episode with us last year is my co-trainer.
Oh, right. Okay. Very cool.
Because he's the D&D nerd. I'm not.
You could be a D&D nerd if you wanted to.
I could. It's a whole lot of fun.
Okay.
I've only ever played it with this training. I've never actually played a real game.
Oh, I see. Well, it goes all the way up from, you could play something like Twerps, which is, the how everything works. They have very rules light all the way up to really heavy stuff like, 5th edition, I would consider to be fairly heavy. But there's Fate and Fudge.
Oh yeah, a whole bunch of different kinds, right?
I love the different mechanics out there. Actually, for the longest time, I've actually just been supporting a bunch of RPG stuff online, and then like reading the source books and stuff because I like to read those and get ideas. But oh man, that's a really cool magic item, or that's a really good. Some of the stories they write for these things and the backstory is fairly well done. So
I'm very happy with some of the stuff we came up for this game. We have. We have different skills that they can roll for in the beginning. So we have them separated out into different companies.
Mm-hmm.
And one's a Imhotep banking company. One is one is Saint Putin's Glory, which is a Russian hospital.
I would never have guessed.
So we have all these companies, right? And some of the skills, I'm looking at our slides right now. That we have strong industry partnerships, which you get +5 for preventative controls or to gain new intelligence.
Okay.
Right. One of my favorite ones is knowing Dave Kennedy at a biblical level.
Oh my!
Which is like a summoning spell, which you can use once, and he just comes in and fixes everything for you.
Well. You do know when you say Dave Kennedy in the biblical sense.
I know.
Okay. Because really, I think
I know.
I think Mrs.
Yes.
Kennedy only knows him in the biblical sense.
Oh
so.
yeah, nope,
Yeah.
I know.
Okay.
And then we have like security training, disaster recovery, communications. I like the communication one. It's instant decision from leadership in your favor.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. So like it's a lot of really cool twists we put on it.
That's really awesome.
That's
really awesome.
It's so much fun.
And how long you say this is? 3 hours?
8 hours.
8 hour. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's
So we did a 4-hour
campaign.
one. Yeah, we did a 4-hour one for B-Sides Cleveland.
Uh-huh.
And if we can pull our stuff together, we're gonna put in a CFT for Black Hat.
That sounds fun. That sounds amazing.
Because I mean, we could totally do this for a full week.
Yeah. Yeah. No, definitely.
Because we work the labs into the storylines.
Oh, really? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So if you take one way, you're going to be doing forensics on a VM. If you go a different way, you're going to be analyzing packet captures or something for a network one or something.
Like one of them, we have them actually perform a password spray against the DC.
Okay.
And get the detection, look and see what the logs are and like the frequency that they have to be to detect it.
Nice.
And then what things that they would have to put into place to stop it.
That's pretty amazing. And that's awesome. Okay. Wow. So you're going to do all this at Secure West Virginia as well then?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. Does anybody have to RSVP to join your class?
They're supposed to, but they don't have to. They can just walk in. We only have like 7 people RSVP'd right now.
Well,
but we can hold, like we figured it out. I think we can do up to like 30 with how we currently have it laid out.
Wow. That's awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Are you in teams? Is that how you're doing it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And each person gets their own role. So like you could be a help desk person.
Right.
Or you could be a CEO, or you could be the risk person. Like it just depends on what your role is to what status you get.
So does each character get pluses or minuses? Like the help desk guy gets +1 to technical, the CEO gets -1 to intelligence, and okay.
Oh yeah.
+3 to
like
charisma.
Last time, because we only had a group of 12 last time, we had some roles that were doubled. So we had one of the startups. Actually, their CFO was also their help desk person.
Okay. All right. Startups. Makes sense.
Yeah. And they ended up, in the end, they were like the inside threat actor that was performing everything and successfully left the country to a non-extradition country. And it was...
You told me about that.
It was a really good storyline. All
right. Cool. All right. Well, yes, go to Secure WV, and if you can get that to work at Black Hat, if not, InfoSec Camp, I would love to have you come up and run that class for us.
Super fun. And now it's all in Azure, so all people have to do is RDP to our stuff, and they're in our lab.
Okay. That's awesome. In mind. Sorry, I'm doing work at the same time. I'm not... All right. Mr. Betcher, how are you doing? You said LogMD is going to be adding some new things to itself coming up.
Yeah. We talked about hiding things in the registry. Little known feature of LogMD is you can take a registry snapshot with it, and it just dumps the entire registry in a text file. And then
that's so awesome.
Go back after you like run some malware or whatever, or do whatever this guy did in the article, SSH keys, and then it does a registry compare. So it takes everything that was there before and just gets rid of it, and only gives you the changes.
Okay.
So it's
nice. Is it a .reg file or is it in a CSV? What's the format for that?
TXT. So just open it in Notepad++.
What I can only imagine what that looks like in text form. Is it delimited somehow, or are you using tabs or spaces? How are you showing the hives and stuff? Is what I guess I'm trying to get at.
Just by path.
Yeah, it's by path. Each key is on a line.
Okay.
So the different values are separated by pipes.
Okay.
So you have the key location. It's just like a location and a file system, right? The registry hive.
Okay.
So it has that, and then it has the key name at the end, then the value name, and then each value name associated with that key and the value of that value name.
Very cool. Okay. I can definitely see
the value type. Like if it's a binary, if you're looking for a binary value or a string value, you can just search that text file for that in your favorite text editor.
I love that. Yeah, I can definitely see the benefits of doing that. That's cool. So, and that will be in the free or the paid version?
It's in both. Yes.
Oh, very cool. Okay. Yeah. A couple of years ago, I remember I was trying to figure out how to export certain keys in the registry for something. I think it was not a CFP, but a CTF that I was doing. And I could not find a good tool to export portions of the registry or the whole registry without having to pay for it. So this is great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And it's easy to search too. And you don't have to use a different tool. I mean, it's just an executable. All it is a different switch. You can do a registry baseline. It dumps the registry to a file. Then you can do a registry compare, and it compares the current values of the registry to what it took whenever you took the last baseline.
That's nice. Okay.
Yep.
Very cool. Yeah, and I could definitely see forensics uses for that too if you're wanting to analyze malware or whatever. So that's great. Okay.
Right.
Cool. All right. Yeah, and people can get that at log-md.com, yeah?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Ms. Berlin, are you also doing a mental health hackers village at Secure WV, or is it just you doing the workshop?
No, well, it's just me doing the workshop, and we will have people in besides Fredericton in Canada running one that weekend.
Okay.
As well as besides Newcastle in the UK.
Okay.
I think it's all on the same weekend.
Wow. All right. Cool. Okay. Yeah. So, Brakesec, you can find us on Twitter at Brakesec, Brian Brake on Twitter as well. Mr. Betcher, how do people find you on Twitter?
At BetcherPwned, BoettcherPwned.
All right. Miss Berlin, how would people find you?
At InfoSystir, INFOSYSTIR.
Cool. All right. So some new developments. If you are interested in supporting our Patreon, we do have one, and we thank all of our supporters there for helping us out with hosting fees and whatever. My marketing officer of a nonprofit, the InfoSec Education Foundation, started up Amazon Smile for us this week. So if you don't want to give to the Patreon, but you tend to buy a lot of stuff, especially over the holidays, and you'd like to help out with the hosting of the podcast or furthering the economic aims of the InfoSec Education Foundation.
So now I'm so torn.
Well,
because now I have to split my Amazon Smile donations.
No, you don't, because you're helping out animals and stuff. Oh no, that was accidental CISO or yeah.
No, ours is for mental health hackers. We do it too.
No, you do that. You do you.
I'm just going to do it every other purchase. I'll just go back and forth.
Okay, that's cool. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure I can write a script to do it.
Yeah. Actually, there's a plugin in your browser. I think you can do that. I was supporting St. Jude's
switch
for
back
the longest
and forth?
time. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. If you go to brakesec.com/smile, or there's a link in the show notes.
I just go to it in my URL. Like, I thought I had a plugin, but it just told me when I wasn't going to smile.
I think it was Amazon Assistant is the plugin that it uses, and it'll tell you which one you're currently supporting. Like I was supporting St. Jude's for the longest time. So, but yeah, I can switch back and forth. So,
I have Amazon Assistant. Son of a gun.
brakesec.com/smile. And that's a bit.ly link that'll take you to Amazon and fix your Amazon appropriately. If you don't want to do that, that's fine too. It's all good. But some people who don't want to use the Patreon, because of whatever issues, can do that, and we get, I don't know how much of a kickback, but every little bit helps. Or you can send us a PayPal. All the links are in the show notes. We have a TPub website, so you can go and get T-shirts, stickers. I need to get some more stickers. I went to this Tag Northwest thing without stickers. It sucks. So, you can go and get a T-shirt or a coffee mug, or grab some swag of any kind, and they'll put Brakesec logo on it for you over there. They're really good. Brakesec, it's tpublic.com/user/BDS podcast. There's a link in the show notes as well. We're on TuneIn Radio, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google, Apple podcast stores, respectively. Leave some feedback. It gives us more attention, and it gets us higher and higher on the list there. We're actually getting more reputable. I'd say it's probably reputable sponsors who keep saying, hey, we would like to give you some money, which is kind of funny because it used to be like, hey, we're fly-by-night legit company. We'll give you a bunch of money to hawk our wares. And I was like, eh. But we've actually had several in the last few days. It was like, oh, maybe they don't suck or something. So if I would be lying if I said we weren't entertaining the idea of doing sponsors, but I want to make sure that they don't suck. We don't want a company that, we're going to have to, give the money back because they aren't good. And I have a feeling after tonight, Cisco probably won't be a sponsor.
Oh, I don't think they are a contender
Cisco
anyways.
Won't be a sponsor anyway. Anyway. All right. Well, I'm done this week. Any last words, Miss Betcher or Miss Boleyn? Okay. Wow.
No.
Very loquacious. Nope. Very loquacious to the both of you. All right. Nope. Well, that's it for Breaking Down Security this week then. Have a great week. Be nice to one another, and be kind to yourself, and, start taking those mental health days if possible, because you got to take care of yourself, because you're the only you have. And we'll talk to you again soon.
Bye.
Bye.